This week in Science Lab, we've been learning about matter. And matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. And there are three states of matter that we've talked about so far in Science Lab, and those states are shown right here on this table. You have a solid, which would be represented by this cup. You have the liquid, which is represented by the water that's been dyed with blue food coloring. And then of course you have air, that's a gas that's all around us. So there are three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. And I posed this question to my students this week as sort of an introduction to one of my lessons. I asked them, what's inside this cup? And most of them said nothing. And a few folks would finally figure out, yeah, there is something inside this cup. There's air. And I would do something like this. And I've captured air. But air is all around us. Of course, I don't have to capture it. It's doing what it wants to do. Those air molecules just go all over the direction, and they decide where they want to be. And so anyway, I have air captured here inside this cup. And then I would ask them a question. What do you think will happen if I place two tissues and ball them up and place them in the bottom of this cup? And then I turn the cup upside down and I put the cup inside the tank holding the water. The water level is higher than the cup, and typically the response among students is that the tissue will get wet, the tissue will turn blue, the tissue will fall out and break apart in the water. Not many students actually come up with the correct answer. So let's try this. What do you think will happen when I place this cup, which contains tissue, upside down into the water? Take a second and figure out what your prediction is. Make a prediction. Let's test it and see. Alright, the cup's completely submerged underneath the water. My hand's wet. I'm about to pull the cup out, and we're going to see what happened to the tissue. The outside of the cup is wet, but as I pull the tissue out, you'll notice that it is completely dry. Why is this tissue completely dry? What do you think? Take a second and think about that. Pause this video, and when you come back, I'll tell you what the correct answer is. Well, it's not a magic trick. I had some students this week say, Mr. Crater, that's a magic trick. I'm like, no, it's not magic, it's science. There's a reason behind this. And it has to do with one of the states of matter, air. When I place the tissue inside the cup, there's something in between the tissue and the water, and that something is air. The air that is trapped inside this cup prevents the tissue from getting wet. Let's do this again. You can check it out. All right. If you see, I have not placed the cup into the water just yet. I'm about to do that. When I do that, air is trapped immediately between where my hand is at and the tissue. So it prevents the tissue from getting wet. It's completely dry. Now, today I was doing this in a classroom, and one of the students said that, Mr. Crater, I bet you can let the air out. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, tilt the cup sideways whenever you have the cup in the water. I'm like, that's a wonderful example of a way to show that the air is escaping. And when the air escapes, what do you think is going to happen to the tissue? Yeah, you guessed it right. It's going to get wet. So let's do that. Let's demonstrate that. All right, the air's captured. It's preventing the tissue from getting wet, but I'm about to turn the cup, and when I do, you're going to see the air escape. Did you see it? Did you hear it? That air bubble represents the air escaping from the cup, and as soon as the air escapes from the cup, the tissue gets wet. Matter, there are three states: solid, liquid, and gas. It's not magic, it's science.